The vote just came down, 222 ayes, 200 nays, and with that result, MAGA Mike Johnson's grip on the speaker's gavel is slipping fast. What you just witnessed was a 231 to 195 vote where Democrats and Republicans joined forces to overturn two of Donald Trump's executive orders that MAGA Mike had backed completely. Those orders blocked collective bargaining in the federal government, and labor unions are celebrating their reversal, while MAGA Mike, James Comer, and Donald Trump are absolutely furious. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a message for MAGA Mike, and she's delivering it like a parting gift on her way out the door. She's openly discussing how to deal the death blow to his speakership, specifically trying to rally a block of 9 MAGA Republicans willing to vote him out. Here's the pattern you need to watch closely. Discharge petition after discharge petition is breaking through to the House floor. The collective bargaining bill came through a discharge petition. The Epstein vote came through a discharge petition. A potential vote to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies is also heading down the discharge petition path. Marjorie Taylor Greene is essentially telling MAGA Mike that before she leaves Congress, she's taking him down with her. She's working other MAGA members and Republicans to get there, and she needs 9 votes. Back in the Kevin McCarthy era, it only took 1 member to trigger the motion and blow everything up. Then the full House voted. The rules are different now, but the chaos is exactly the same. Hat tip to our friends at MSNBC for breaking this story. Here's what they reported. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants her last act of defiance as she exits Congress, even as her life is being threatened by Donald Trump and MAGA Mike Johnson, to be pushing forward a motion to vacate MAGA Mike Johnson as Speaker. She's going member by member, one at a time, and while it won't be easy, she believes she can get there. That alone tells you how fragile this entire operation has become. And it's worth noting who's suddenly back in the mix here. Elise Stefanik of New York. The same Elise Stefanik that Donald Trump pushed aside after dangling the UN ambassador position in front of her, then yanking it away and forcing her to crawl back to the House like nothing happened. That's the environment MAGA Mike is trying to hold together right now. Stefanik said she believes MAGA Mike certainly wouldn't have the votes to be Speaker if there was a roll call vote tomorrow. She believes the majority of Republicans would vote for new leadership. It's that widespread. And it looks like Elise Stefanik may be one of the names Marjorie Taylor Greene is targeting as she tries to finish off MAGA Mike. Who else is circling? Nancy Mace of South Carolina. She's been telling people she's completely fed up with Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson, fed up with how he's run the House, and especially fed up with how women are treated under his leadership. She's planning to huddle with Marjorie Taylor Greene to figure out a way to finally say goodbye to MAGA Mike Johnson. This helps explain why every time you see Mike Johnson around the Capitol now, he's hustling down hallways, dodging cameras, looking absolutely rattled. Give credit where it's due. Manu Raju at CNN always tries to pin him down. He always steps in front of Johnson and asks the tough questions. Yesterday, Manu did exactly that. He laid it out plainly. Donald Trump looks weak. Indiana Republicans refused to go along with Trump's gerrymandering scheme. Trump's approval rating is sitting at 36%. His DOJ failed to land another indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James. His approval on the economy is down around 32 or 33%. in the latest polling. In other words, the wheels are wobbling badly. Manu asked the obvious question, is Donald Trump a lame duck? Is he losing his grip on power? And MAGA Mike's response was pure, uncut delusion. He said Donald Trump is the most powerful president of this generation. And that's what he went with. Now, when asked if he's worried about Trump's power after the Indiana defeat and whether it shows Trump is a lame duck, Johnson said absolutely not. He insisted Trump is the most powerful president of this generation and many others, that they have a lot more work to do together, and that the outcome in Indiana is inconsequential. He claimed they're going to win the midterms. Johnson tried to downplay Trump's involvement, saying Trump didn't put major pressure on Indiana. He just let his opinion be known as he does on everything all day long. They win some, they lose some, and it's no indication whatsoever about what's going to happen in next year's midterm elections. Johnson claimed he's excited about the campaign, that they're bullish, and that they'll win regardless of how each state comes out. He insisted he's more bullish today than yesterday, and that the media underestimates them. Then MAGA Mike was asked by Manu Raju about health care. What are you going to do about the Affordable Care Act subsidies? What's going on there? And his answer reveals just how vulnerable he's become. When asked what he says to swing district Republicans who are really clamoring and begging for a vote on a 2-year extension of ACA subsidies and worried about the impact on their constituents and voters, Johnson claimed he's spoken to all his colleagues and they've worked around the clock to come up with a solution that satisfies everyone's needs. But when pressed about whether he'll actually give them a vote, Johnson pivoted immediately. He said they're working on a package of legislation that will reduce premiums for all Americans, not just 7% of them. He claimed he's been talking to colleagues in tough districts about it and told reporters to stay tuned because there's more to come. He promised they'll have a bill next week that will accomplish exactly that, then ran away. Isn't he always running? He's forever sprinting away every single time. And here he is again, MAGA Mike Johnson, doing his usual hallway sprint. We've got 3 separate clips from the same day of him ducking, weaving, and bolting the moment a microphone comes anywhere near him. Manu Raju is right there doing his job, trying to pin him down with actual questions that require actual answers. Manu asked him the obvious question, what do you think about Donald Trump calling African countries shithole countries? Are you good with that, MAGA Mike? It's a pretty simple question. Moral clarity not required, just an answer. And what does MAGA Mike do? He does what he always does. He freezes, pivots, and runs. And when asked if he's okay with that kind of language, Johnson complained that he's baited every day with requests to comment about what the president or other members say. When pressed that he's the leader and asked if he has an opinion, Johnson admitted, of course, he has an opinion. That's not the way he speaks, and everyone knows that. But then he defended Trump, saying the president is expressing his frustration about the extraordinary challenge presented to America. Johnson claimed we have people coming in, not assimilating and trying to take over the country, that we had 20 million illegal aliens. He couldn't even condemn the racist language without making excuses for it. Now let's look at what some House Republicans are actually saying. And yes, I'm going to use the term MAGA Republicans loosely here, because if there's anyone left in that conference who even vaguely resembles a moderate, it's Don Bacon. Now, that's a pretty low bar. He still votes with Donald Trump plenty. He's still embedded in that ecosystem. But by today's standards, this is as close as it gets to a moderate Republican. That's why what Bacon says matters, because even the people who usually try to thread the needle, keep their heads down, and avoid angering leadership are starting to admit the obvious. The Affordable Care Act subsidies are expiring. People are going to lose coverage. Premiums are going to explode. And pretending otherwise isn't going to cut it anymore. Don't take my word for it. Listen to Don Bacon say it himself. Bacon points out that all these Republicans are going to go back home and have to look voters in the eye and say they've done nothing while premiums are going up like $2,000 a month. He says the reality is going to hit and they need a short-term extension. Then they can talk about deeper reforms. When told, the speaker seems dead set against this because he's hearing from a lot of folks that they didn't vote for the ACA or the IRA, and this is a Democrat problem. Bacon responds that Republicans are in charge now. When asked how bad it will be for Republicans if they don't extend these subsidies, Bacon says it will be used like a sledgehammer on them a year from now. The reality will hit hard. Let me play what Josh Hawley in the Senate is saying about the Affordable Care Act subsidies. When asked how big of a problem it would be for his party if they don't come up with a health care plan, Hawley admits he doesn't know how Republicans would explain doubling premiums to 24 million Americans. He says they need to think about the human cost, and Republicans need to offer an alternative solution. Now, let me show you what Senator Tillis, who's retiring from North Carolina, has to say about the Epstein files being hidden, the video of strikes on survivors of fishing boats being hidden, Trump's medical records being hidden. Tillis says they've got to release the video. They've got to get the Epstein files released. They've got to get any videos that don't compromise mission integrity down there. Just get the stuff out there. When asked if he'd rather see a different Secretary of Defense, Tillis says he just wants to see the facts so he can make an informed decision. I actually like the way AOC frames the gerrymandering issue because it cuts straight through the nonsense around Trump and MAGA Mike's schemes. If you're trying to carve up districts to kneecap Democrats, you don't do that in a vacuum. You have to pull voters from somewhere, and where do they come from? Republican districts. You dilute your own base trying to save yourselves. That's the math. There's no clever workaround. Here's the part that really matters. Districts that were Trump plus 10, plus 15, even plus 20 in 2024 are no longer safe. We're seeing Democrats win in those exact areas in state legislative races, mayoral races, statewide commission races, and governor's races. The ground has shifted and Republicans are pretending it hasn't. They're fighting the last war with maps that don't match reality anymore. That's what AOC is pointing out. You can draw all the lines you want, but you can't gerrymander your way out of a collapsing coalition. When asked about the possibility of a blue wave where plus 10 Republican seats flip to Democrats, AOC says if Republicans want to draw a map that makes them more vulnerable to that, that's their decision. When asked if she thinks there will be a blue wave, she says yes, she thinks so. That's the reality Republicans are facing, and MAGA Mike knows it even if he won't admit it publicly. We're watching MAGA Mike Johnson's job security like a hawk. You heard him say he's going to bring something to the floor on health care, which translated from Johnson's speak means a press release, a talking point, and a whole lot of nothing. Who knows what it's actually going to be? History suggests it won't be serious, won't be sufficient, and won't help the people who actually need help. but we'll track it anyway because that's the job. The discharge petition strategy is working, and that's driving Trump and Johnson insane when Democrats and moderate Republicans can team up to force votes on issues Johnson wants to bury. His power evaporates. That's what happened with collective bargaining. That's what's happening with the Epstein files. That's what could happen with ACA subsidies. Each successful discharge petition makes the next one easier and makes Johnson look weaker. Marjorie Taylor Greene understands this weakness, which is why she's striking now. She knows MAGA Mike is vulnerable. She knows there are Republicans who resent his leadership, who feel betrayed by his deals with Democrats, who think he's not fighting hard enough for Trump's agenda. She only needs 9 members willing to pull the trigger. And in a conference, this chaotic and dysfunctional 9 angry members isn't hard to find. The irony is delicious. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the most extreme MAGA loyalists in Congress, is the one threatening to take down MAGA Mike Johnson. She's not doing it because he's too extreme. She's doing it because, in her view, he's not extreme enough. He's making too many compromises. He's allowing too many discharge petitions. He's not willing to burn down the institution completely to protect Trump. This is the cannibalistic nature of the MAGA movement on full display. It's never enough to be loyal. You have to be perfectly loyal. You can't make strategic compromises. You can't work with Democrats even when you have no choice. You can't acknowledge political reality even when it's staring you in the face. Any deviation from absolute fealty to Trump is grounds for destruction. MAGA Mike thought he could navigate this. He thought he could keep Trump happy while also keeping his conference together and getting necessary legislation passed. He was wrong. You can't do all three. Trump demands absolute loyalty, even when it means losing. The conference is ungovernable because half of them live in an alternate reality where Trump is strong and popular, and necessary legislation requires working with Democrats, which Trump sees as betrayal. Johnson is trapped in an impossible position of his own making. He wanted the job, maneuvered for it after McCarthy's ouster, and promised he could manage Trump and unite the party. Now he's learning the same lesson McCarthy did. Chaos can't be managed, only endured until it destroys you. The question isn't if MAGA Mike loses the speakership, but when. If Marjorie Taylor Greene assembles 9 votes, a motion to vacate is automatic, and Johnson would need a House majority to survive. With Republicans angry, moderates frustrated, and Democrats happy to watch the implosion, his odds are slim. Even if he survives for now, he's badly weakened. Every vote tests his authority. Every discharge petition succeeds because members know he's vulnerable. Each failure feeds the next, pushing him deeper into a political death spiral. And there's no clear replacement. Stefanik is damaged. Scalise lacks support. Jordan already failed. And Emmer was eliminated instantly by Trump. If Johnson falls, Republicans could face weeks of chaos just trying to pick a new speaker. Democrats are exploiting this carefully. Every successful discharge petition advances Democratic priorities. Every display of GOP dysfunction feeds 2026 campaign messaging. But they're also walking a tightrope, keeping Republicans just functional enough to avoid shutdowns while ensuring the chaos remains theirs to own. Healthcare makes this even worse. ACA subsidies are expiring, premiums are about to spike, and Republicans have no plan. Repeal and replace was always a slogan, not a policy. Now they're in power and have nothing to offer. Johnson's promise of a bill to lower premiums is fantasy. There's no GOP consensus, no framework, and no agreement that health care is even government's responsibility. Half the party wants subsidies to expire. The other half represents districts where thousands will lose coverage. That contradiction isn't survivable politically or structurally. And this is the core problem Republicans face everywhere. Their base demands ideological purity, but swing districts require compromise. You can't do both. You can't cut taxes for the rich while helping working families, deregulate everything while protecting consumers, or deny climate change while your constituents live through fires and floods. MAGA Mike knows this. That's why he dodges cameras, promises bills that never appear, and looks worn down every time he's questioned. He agreed to lead a party that's effectively ungovernable, serving a president already approaching lame duck status, heading into a 2026 midterm that looks brutal. The real question in Washington isn't policies, it's survival. Does he even make it to Christmas as Speaker, or does he join the list of Republicans who learned too late that loyalty to Trump is a dead end? This chaos matters every day. Republicans fight each other is a day nothing gets done. Every successful discharge petition hands Democrats a win. And every public meltdown reminds voters why they're losing confidence. With 2026 approaching fast, Republicans aren't building momentum. They're tearing themselves apart. That's not a strategy, it's decline.